Fly fishing has no season, and fly fishing has no geography.
What I like about fly fishing is its insidious nature.
The first fish I caught on a fly rod was magic.
For me, fly fishing is about breaking down the barrier between generations.
Hi, I'm Gardner Grant, a trustee of the American Museum of Fly Fishing here in beautiful Manchester, Vermont. The museum has produced this film as part of its mission to promote an appreciation for the history, tradition, and the practitioners, past and present, of the sport of fly fishing. We introduce its rich heritage to many audiences by collecting, preserving, studying, and displaying the art, artifacts, and literature of our sport. We hope this will excite your interest in what I think is the greatest way to fish. Arnold Gingrich, the founding editor of Esquire magazine, wrote, "Fly fishing is the most fun a person can have, standing up." Now let's see why.
If I run this over you enough times, you'll think it's a hatch. Oh.
Joan Wulff is the First Lady of fly fishing.
Oh, my goodness. Hang in there, hang in there. Beautiful brown, and I'm going to release you. Right, okay, there you go. And grow bigger.
Joan was a phenomenon even before she was a teenager. She started winning casting tournaments in the 1930s and went on to capture 17 national and international titles. Joan is an all-around champion, the only woman to have ever won a distance casting championship against all-male competition. Since 1952, Joan has traveled the world promoting casting and the sport of fishing, while also appearing at many sportsman shows. She and her late husband, Lee Wulff, founded the Wulff School of Fly Fishing in the Catskills in 1979. Joan has been inducted into numerous halls of fame and is a trustee of several conservation organizations. She is a tireless ambassador for fly fishing, and her casting expertise and teaching methods are honored around the world. Joan has taught casting to children as well as adults for 50 years, 2 generations, and today she's working on number 3.
Stop strong. Stop. Oh, back here, back here, there. Right by your face. Yes. Look at every one of them. Isn't that nice? Perfect. Tell me why you like fly fishing.
I like it because I get to spend time with my dad and I like the outdoors.
That's exactly the reason I did. I started at age 10 and you're only 9.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, you have a long life ahead of you. You'll enjoy it. Good. There are different ways to cast, fly casting being one of them. 2 others are bait casting and spinning. The bait casting reel has a revolving spool, which means that the spool revolves as the line comes off it. The spinning reel has a stationary spool, and the line comes off the end. And our fly casting reels are basically for storage. We pull the line off by hand.
A minor disadvantage of bait and spin fishing is that to recast or change direction of a cast, you must wind the lure all the way back to the rod tip before you can cast again. However, in fly fishing, winding the line onto the reel is not necessary. You can pick up the line, recast, or change direction anytime you want.
Another difference is in the weight of the lures. Bait casting and spinning lures have contained weight like this. And you can throw them by hand almost as far as you can cast them. It's like a rock with a string behind it. But when we fish with flies, we're fishing with imitations of insects, and we make those with bits of fur and feather and tinsel and yarn. And if we took one of those ingredients and threw it by hand, it wouldn't go anywhere. So the weight that we're casting is in the fly line itself, and the proof is you can cast a fly line by hand without a rod. And the fly just goes along as a passenger. But believe me, it's a lot easier with a rod. This is a roll cast, used when you're backed up against something and can't make an aerial back cast. It's a one-stroker, very simple. And here are some of the other techniques that we use when we're casting. This is called false casting, and we use this to extend line between presentations or perhaps to dry off a fly. And this is an oval cast. We use this when we're casting very heavy flies or weighted nymphs. The line comes under the rod tip, rides up and back. And when we have to put a fly around a rock in order to have a good drift, then we use a curve cast. I fish with all methods, but I started with bait casting, and over the years I've come to love fly casting best of all. I love it because of the feeling and grace of it. Many of us think that fly casting is a true art. Fly fishing is the best example of eternal hope. We all believe that our very next cast is going to bring us the biggest fish of our lives. The next cast.
Bass are one of the most popular sport fish in the world and one of the most aggressive. People fish for bass with all kinds of equipment, and Flip Pallett, one of the most famous fishermen in the world, uses flies and a fly rod. Flip has been a host and narrator of international television programs and is also an author and industry consultant.
You ask me why I fly fish. The answer comes to me in two parts. The first part is that fly fishing gives me the opportunity to put my hand against the piling of a dock and push myself away from that dock and everything that that dock represents. cell phones, business meetings, tax forms, and all the things that are associated with normal everyday life. And the other part, I guess, is that fly fishing has no season, and fly fishing has no geography. There's always a place where something's rising, something's hatching, something's swimming into the current, and you can be there at any time of the year. So I guess those are really the two reasons that keep me squinting into the sun day after day and fly fishing.
Let's take a look at fly fishing and literature. Some of our greatest writers, Isaac Walton, Zane Grey, Ernest Hemingway, John Voelker, Norman MacLean of River Runs Through It fame, were all enthusiastic fly fishers. And their writings show that although fly fishing appeared to be the central theme, the actual significance of the story was that it was about life.
What has led fly fishing to have the largest and most comprehensive and diverse literature of any sport or activity of that sort is the immense diversity of it.
Nick Lyons is one of the most admired and loved writers in fly fishing. He has written dozens of books, articles, and columns. He also owned a publishing company that released more than 135 books written by many of the modern masters. Nick has a PhD in English and for years was a professor at the University of Michigan and Hunter College in New York.
All of the best writing about fishing is as much about life as it is about the technology of the sport. In fly fishing, we have one great masterpiece written in our time, Norman MacLean's A River Runs Through It, which is as much about a family that is struggling to hold itself together as it is about the fly fishing itself. In Hemingway's great story, Big Two-Hearted River, we have a boy probably back from the war, probably shell-shocked, who's trying to put the pieces of his life together. And the fishing is there. It's a central part of it. It's important to him, but it's a story about the boy. Hemingway, who all of his life, from the age of 4, virtually through his sad last years, was a fisherman. Among the other really great writers who are still writing today, I would include Tom McGuane at the very top. He has written about fly fishing, both in separate essays, The Longest Silence, in which that lead story is perhaps the best essay I know on fly fishing, and in his novels as well. Fishing is always connected to some quality in the fisherman, and the fisherman brings out those qualities as he fishes. Acts of intelligence, thoughtfulness, primarily skill, discipline, but also an exquisite knowledge of the quarry and the world in which that quarry lives. Among the very best modern writers who have added to what I would call the literature of fly fishing, as well as to literature itself, would be, of course, John Gierach.
I think fly fishing and writing attract the same kinds of personalities. They tend to be real detail-oriented. A fly fisherman will worry about how many turns of hackle there should be on a dry fly, and a writer will sit up all night worrying about the proper use of a semicolon. They're just the same kind of picky, detail-oriented people.
John Gierach is a successful author who focuses not only on fly fishing, but also on the ironies of human behavior. Originally from the Midwest, he has since fished around the world. John has written almost 20 books, which have been translated into many languages, including Norwegian, Japanese, and French. He has even had books sell high numbers that were reissued years after their initial release.
There's also a kind of ambiguity that attracts both personalities. In fishing, there isn't even a clear definition of what success is, and in writing you have these complicated ideas that you're trying to make clear, and they resist that. I mean, we who fly fish think it's deeply meaningful until we try to explain why it's meaningful, and then it suddenly is just fishing again. And a lot of the best fly fishing stories tend to be about something other than the fishing, but that wouldn't have come up without the fishing. For instance, when Jim Harrison says few of us shoot ourselves during an evening hatch, he's not talking about fly fishing in evening hatches. He's talking about something else.
Fly fishing has also produced a great number of humorists, partly because so many funny things happen along the stream. The greatest of the fly fishing humorists is clearly the late and very great Ed Zern, who has left us with dozens and dozens of maxims on how to size fish after they have been caught, how they increase in size, and also this wonderful maxim, fly fishermen are born honest, but they get over it.
Again, author John Gierach.
What I like about fly fishing is its insidious nature. You take it up because it looks pretty and relaxing, and it is eventually, but you can't do it well if you do it casually. And it's only fun if you do it well. So eventually you just become this sort of low-level fanatic. And then 30 years later you wake up and you're still learning. At least that's my story. I actually like fishing just about anywhere I've ever been. I've never been any place that I wasn't at least tempted to go back to. But I do have a soft spot for small streams in the Rocky Mountains, partly because I started fly fishing there a long time ago, but also because so many fishermen see them as second-rate. And so they're not crowded, they're not fashionable. You can easily just get off by yourself. It's undisturbed. The fish are often wild. And there's something about catching small fish on hugely expensive tackle that sort of keeps you humble, keeps a perspective. And I also like farm ponds and ranch ponds a lot. I started out fishing on those when I was a kid. And just as a little kid fishing, it never occurred to me they weren't scenic. I was just catching fish. There's just a sort of caginess about them that I like, where a rancher will dam the spring just to water the horses, but now there's a pond with no fish in it, which to the right person is a blank canvas. He's just got to put fish in there. Well, there's nothing rising on the pond, and a guide friend said this would work, so I'm going to try it. For now, I'm going to try a retrieve. Maybe that one's good. Yes, it is. I also like fly fishing because you can come at it so many different ways. You can travel the world if you can afford that or have the time to do it cheaply. You can specialize in trout, or you can fish for anything that doesn't have legs. You can stay home and become the local guru. There are just 100 different ways for you to be who you are and still be a fisherman.
Fly fishing encompasses science as well as art. In addition to the physics of casting, the sciences include entomology, which is the study of aquatic insects and trout streams, and ichthyology, the study of fishes, and even weather. Barometric pressure and temperature affect a fish's behavior. Now let's look at what they eat. Most of what fish eat can be imitated by man-made flies. And here's where fly fishing can't be beat. Some insects are born and mature underwater. Later, they rise to the surface and then fly into the air. Other creatures that are found in the water are minnows, frogs, worms, shrimp, and crayfish. And of course, there are terrestrials like grasshoppers, ants, and beetles. Fly tying is a true folk art. You start with a bare hook, and by adding fur and feathers, you create something that will entice a fish to take it. And catching a fish on a fly you have tied really adds whipped cream to the whole experience.
Keith Fulcher is an innovative fly tyer, and his Thunder Creek series of bait fish flies is famous. Keith is a retired banker who has fly fished and tied flies most of his life, as well as having taught thousands the art of fly tying.
I love fly tying because it turns the sport into a year-round activity. In the winter months, when you won't be out fishing, maybe the season's closed, you can go into your fly tying room and dig out the feathers and the fur and make flies for the next season. In addition to that, what I like about fly tying is it kind of turns you into an entomologist. You study all the different forms of stream insects. You get to know the various types of animals, about their habitat, and it's just a great activity in that regard. If you could see some of the flies that some of the fly tyers are making today, you would think it really is an art. It's often referred to as a craft, but I have a firm belief, because of the nature of some of the work I see, that it's as much of an art as people painting with canvases and paints. And I'm ready now with this one for the next season.
Fly fishing is a very effective way to fish, especially for fish feeding on insects on or near the surface.
Could be right there.
Most flies are tied on single, barbless hooks. Such hooks are easily removed for catch and release, a practice that keeps many fisheries alive and thriving. Barbed treble hooks are often attached to bait casting and spinning lures. These hooks can cause more damage to fish.
The first fish
You want at least a good 3/0 or...
was the most exhilarating experience. And after I released that fish back into the water, that was it. I was addicted.
Obviously, Diana Rudolph has a passion for fly fishing. She spends most of her time with a fly rod in hand and loves every minute of it. Diana holds a number of world records, even though breaking records is not her goal. After a BA in biology in graduate school, Diana turned to fishing and writing. Today, she catches fish on the saltwater flats of the Florida Keys and billfish in deep blue water. In the summer, she frequents the rivers and streams of Montana and the Rocky Mountains, where she stalks and catches large brown and rainbow trout.
For me, the moment just before a fish takes a fly, just when he commits, is the most exciting in fly fishing. It is so exhilarating, and I become so focused. All of my daydreams end, life's minutia melts away, and I'm in the moment. I do fish a lot in solitude, but I really enjoy fishing with my friends. And a lot of my really close friends began as strangers, you know, but through some conversation or somehow we stumbled upon the fact that we really share this passion, and it brought us together, and now they're wonderful friends.
George and Dusty Revell are teenage brothers who are sensations in the fly fishing community. They were qualified as Federation of Fly Fishers certified fly casting instructors when they were only 13 and 14. Each holds numerous casting records.
I love fly fishing because it's a lifelong passion I'll carry with me throughout my life, and it's definitely something I've gained a tremendous amount of experience from. Being an instructor and a guide, I teach and help people fish from all different facets of society. Male, female, rich, poor, young and old, all alike have something in common to talk about. It's a really humbling experience as well, being skunked by a fish that has a lower IQ than you, and it's a pretty amazing experience.
For me, fly fishing is about breaking down the barrier between generations. It gives us something to talk about, that we have in common. You don't often see 17 and 18-year-olds hanging around 70 and 80-year-old men and women. It's just not very common in society today. My friends, they spend countless hours in front of a TV screen or a computer screen playing video games, and I just don't get anything from that. I need to be outside or on the stream, doing outdoor activities. I also like to meet people through my passion, and that's what fly fishing is about for me.
There is also a close relationship between fine art and fly fishing. Numerous paintings depict fish and fly fishing, and many renowned artists are fly fishers. Artists such as James Prozek.
I think what painting and fly fishing have in common is that they're both founded in a predatory instinct.
James is an acclaimed artist and author. When just 19 and a junior at Yale, James's book Trout established his reputation. Since then, he's written a number of books about travel, history, and coming of age, as well as fishing, and he's illustrated them all. His watercolor paintings and prints illustrating local flavor, scenics, and nature are sold to collectors worldwide.
The first known drawings that we have are from the caves in Lascaux, France, things that the hunters were pursuing. Drawing these creatures helped them understand the creatures better. Getting to know the creatures helped them become more efficient predators. For millennia, humans have essentially survived as predators. In fly fishing, I think that we are exercising a predatory urge. It's really about observation, and if I'm on a trip and I sit down in a place, what I get out of painting something is much more than just taking a snapshot. I remember that moment. I can remember the glass of water I had in front of me. I can remember the smells, the sounds, that it was drizzling or there was thunder. Our relationship to nature is really about being immersed in it and observing the things that are going on around us. And fly fishing is one of those things that brings us into nature and causes us to sort of take time out and look at what's going on around us. If I hadn't discovered fly fishing as a kid, I don't think I would have become an artist.
And why do I love fly fishing? I love this sport because of its depth. There's art and literature and life sciences and craft. But I really love it because of the wild and beautiful places it takes me, where I can connect to another of God's creatures, feel its life force through my fly rod, and release it. In 1939, Joan Wulff wrote, "A good game fish is too valuable to be caught only once." And this sport teaches us why.
Now that you have had a glimpse of the wonderful world of fly fishing, I hope this will help lead you to the lifetime of enjoyment this sport can bring. The American Museum of Fly Fishing thanks you for visiting with us.